Hey guys, Silver Shady here, and welcome back to another episode of Pokemonday. And today is a bit more of a special video. I know this is coming out a couple days early than Monday, but whatever. I had received. I shouldn't. I guess it was a request. I'd received a request to build a deck from a friend of mine. It was the new Trevenant from Guardians Rising. In all honesty, when I first saw the card, I was not that excited about it. I felt like it was very much overhyped. Just too gimmicky. And quite honestly, as it turns out, I think I was right, but we'll get into why afterwards. I went ahead and built a list. I've been testing this list for a little while now, and it's not, well, I'll go into more detail, but for now, here's the list. Figured I'd show you guys at least. We have, starting off, 4 copies of Phantump, the new one from Guardians Rising. The main reason we run this is because it is a grass type, which allows us to play Forest of Giant Plants with it, also known as Broken Vine Space. Its attacks don't really matter, although I suppose if you absolutely had to, you could, for a DCE, confuse your opponent's active Pokemon, but if you have to do that, then yeah. Bad day for you. We also run 3 copies of the new Guardians Rising Trevenant. I did try 4 out. I was finding that 4 was clumping. I was finding a pyramid line to be a little bit better. Trevenant is your main attacker with 120 HP. For a DCE, does Poltergeist. This attack does your opponent reveals their hand, and this attack does 30 damage times the number of trainer cards your opponent has in their hand. It's all well and good. Second attack doesn't matter because you won't have the energy to use it. So, and then lastly, we play 2 copies of Trevenant Break as well. The Break is mostly there to bump Trevenant up to 160 HP, which is a little bit harder for decks like Decidueye to hit those kind of numbers. Also, it should be noted it turns Trevenant from a grass into a psychic type, which means he now is hitting Mega Mewtwo for weakness, which actually has proven useful. So, and unlike Tapu Lele, yes, I did double check this one. Either way, moving on to our support line. Naturally, because we're playing Broken Vine Space, what else would we play but a 3 line of perhaps the most toxic card in the standard format, known as Vileplume. I honestly believe this has got to be one of the most toxic cards in the standard format as we know it at the moment. Naturally, irritating pollen, locking down item cards for both players as soon as it comes into play, and it's extremely difficult to work around. So, and then lastly, for our rounding out our supporting cast, we have 2 copies of Tapu Lele, because supporter searching is awesome, and 2 copies of Shaman for draw power. So that would be our Pokemon lineup. Just real quickly. Sorry about that, guys. Alright, on to our supporter lineup. We play 4 copies of Professor Sycamore, 4 copies of N, we play 1 Lysander, 1 Lily, 1 Olympia, and that's it. Naturally, we want to max out on things like N and Sycamore, because this is going to be our primary source of getting cards when it comes to later on in the game, being that Vileplume hopefully will be out on turn 1. That's pretty much all there is to it. We play Lily because we play Lele, and again, it's so powerful you can't, it's just asinine not to run it when you're playing with Lele, especially in counts of 2. It's good always to have that 1 copy just in case. So, and in fact, just having this has actually saved me quite a few times. But anyway. Stadium choice, naturally, we play 4 copies of Broken Vine Space, as I mentioned earlier, allowing our grass Pokemon to evolve on the same turn they come into play. Onto our tools, we play 2 copies of Floatstone and 2 copies of Choice Band. After a lot of testing, I have decided the Choice Band is actually kind of useless. And I think if I was going to actually try to bring this into like a league challenge or something like that, I definitely would cut both copies of Choice Band for another Floatstone and a Field Blower, as I feel that can be really, really powerful in this deck. So, I did have Field Blower in here initially. It wasn't proving too useful, but not having it, I found, was worse than having a dead card in your hand. So, onto our items, we play 4 copies of Ultra Ball and 1 copy of Timer Ball. Timer Ball allowing us to flip 2 coins for each heads we search our deck for an evolution Pokemon, show it to our opponent, and put it into our hand, shuffle our deck afterward. I did play Level Ball in here initially. I have been finding Timer Ball is a little more useful. Yeah. Anyway. We also play 4 copies of Trainer's Mail to help us reach for stuff, because reaching is good. 1 copy of Revitalizer to try to help get our Vileplume and our Trevenant line back into our hand. And then we also play 1 copy of Rescue Stretcher to help get our Trevenant Breaks, Tapu Lele's, and Shaman EXs back into our deck, should we have to discard them early. Initially, I also ran a 1/1 line of the new Garbodor in this deck, which was the main reason I started running this. I do think that this can be cut in favor of probably another Revitalizer. It's all up to you on how you want to do it. Another option that you could always go with is Brock's Grit in this deck as well, would be a nice addition. But either way, I definitely think Rescue Stretcher can be swapped out for something more useful. And lastly, to round out our energy count, we play 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy and 4 Basic Psychic. Basic Psychic may seem like a really, really interesting choice on what to do, but between the fact that Basic Psychic allows us to use Tapu Lele's GX attack, which is our only GX attack in the entire deck, and the fact that it allows Trevenant to use its Silent Fear attack to hit everything for a solid 30 damage, it just seems like the natural choice to go with Basic Psychic in this deck. As far as why I don't like this deck, first of all, it's a Vileplume deck. I have a history of not really liking to play Vileplume. Again, mostly this is because I play for fun. I don't really play too competitively anymore. But Vileplume is never fun to play against, which means if my opponent isn't having fun, half the time I'm not having fun either. So, hence why I tend to avoid using Vileplume. Another reason why I don't like this deck is this is what I call a turn 2 deck, which means by turn 2, whether it be your opponent's turn 2 or your turn 2, 9 times out of 10, you already know who's going to win the match. And it's as easy as that. The problem with turn 2 decks is 9 times out of 10, they cannot come back from that. Decidueye Vileplume, actually, in my opinion, is another turn 2 deck. The only difference is Decidueye can come back from it. This can't. Main reason why this deck specifically can't come back from it is I actually had it happen to me a couple of times versus Silver Melody, where being that Poltergeist requires items in your opponent's hand, Silver Melody doesn't play any copies of Shaman, which means that if she doesn't have a supporter in her hand, and she uses up her entire hand worth of items, and I don't have an N to make her draw more, I do 0 damage. And that's it. 0. Even with Choice Band, I still, at best, do a baseline 30. Which, I mean, that's all well and good, but I could do Sky Return for that. it's too easy to work around the deck. That's the problem. Because all you have to do is, hell, I mean, even if you can just make it so you can only keep one card in your hand, then that's all you need to do. But between being able to work around Trevenant, the fact that it plays Vileplume, alongside no real recovery options for any form of energy denial, and you just have yourself a deck that's all over the place. So, again, this is my own personal take on Trevenant. Perhaps maybe you guys have a better list out there that has been working for you. If so, fantastic. I myself will probably not be revisiting this deck. This will probably just be filed away into the cards that are good on paper, not so much in practice. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. There's no code card today, but Monday I will have another code for you guys. So, yeah. Again, I don't like to badmouth any form of deck, but sometimes, yeah, sometimes decks are just flawed from the ground up. And again, my list isn't perfect, I'll admit that, but definitely not the kind of list I would advise you be taking into a league tournament anytime soon. Or league challenge, I should say. Either way. That's the deck for you guys. And we'll see you in the next one.